No matter how much the Yuji tried to cleanse himself, his hands remained stained with blood. After the horrific Shibuya incident, Itadori had spent most of his time hunting down curses. Day after day, he simply ate and ate, then continued his relentless pursuit. During one particular fight, a curse battered him mercilessly, only for Itadori to suddenly realize the monster had dropped dead. It just collapsed right onto him. That's right, the one who took it down was none other than Yuta. Let's rewind a few days. Naoya, a grade 1 sorcerer, found himself on the receiving end of a massive scolding. His father was on his deathbed, yet Naoya couldn't have cared less, even showing up late. The next Zenin clan head is going to be me anyway, he thought. In Naoya's eyes, his older brothers were utterly useless, and he showed no respect, only disgust, even for the two uncles in the room with him. However, when those two threatened him, he quickly used his dying father as an excuse, saying, "My dad's on his deathbed, so maybe be a little patient." Just then, a lawyer entered, announcing, "The clan head passed away mere minutes ago. Since all three of you are present, I will now read his last will and testament." As expected, Naoya was named the 27th head of the Zenin clan. He was set to inherit all assets, including the cursed tools from the Jujutsu school's forbidden vault. But there was a catch. He could only use them with the approval of those two uncles. Hearing this, Naoya visibly seethed with anger. What could he do? He had to accept it. The final clause stated that if, for any reason, Gojo died or lost his faculties, the family was bound by a vow to Toji. Megumi was to be welcomed into the home as the clan head. All assets would then transfer to him, overriding the father's current will. Naoya stormed out of the room, determined to find out where Megumi was. He heard from Lady that Megumi was currently on a mission in Tokyo, searching for Yuji, who was also Sukuna's vessel. Upon hearing this, Naoya immediately concocted a plan to eliminate both of them simultaneously. Tokyo was a living hell anyway, so who died wouldn't matter much. Once they were dealt with, everything would fall into place, he believed. "I absolutely must become the next clan head," he declared, after the numerous tragic deaths following the Shibuya incident, which had left Yuji steeped in despair. When Choso asked how he was, Yuji replied that, aside from the spots hit by Black Flash, he was mostly okay. "The important thing is, I can feel Sukuna's power growing inside me," he added. Choso reassured him, urging his younger brother to return to Jujutsu High, but Itadori flat out refused. He felt he had caused too many deaths and couldn't be near his friends. "Don't forget, I killed your brother," Yuji reminded him. Choso didn't hold a grudge at all, because he knew it was unintentional. With that, the two went out to hunt curses. On a bridge, Yuji made himself bait, luring them out. Two fierce monsters emerged, vying to attack, forcing him to flee for his life. Even with the bridge destroyed and standing upright, Itadori's speed didn't falter. He rocketed into the air, kicking a lurking curse to pieces, then plummeted back down, only to be snatched by another curse and dragged directly into the city. But before it could even get started, Yuji blew it to smithereens. After handling that, he slammed to a halt, then scaled a nearby apartment building to survey his surroundings. Suddenly, a curse lunged down for a sneak attack, but it had no effect. Yuji calmly sidestepped the blow and kept moving. He knew he was being chased by a horde of curses, so he sprinted into a tunnel. The monster saw this and immediately pursued, completely unaware they were running straight into a trap. The moment he heard his younger brother's call, Choso unleashed his attack, obliterating them with a single blood projectile. Seeing his older brother about to be ambushed by another curse, Yuji didn't hesitate, rushing in to defeat it with his fists, which thoroughly impressed Choso. "When we fought before, I knew you were strong," Choso thought, "but now you've also got this impressive agility and masterful control over your curse technique. You truly are my little brother." Choso vowed to keep calling Yuji his brother until he finally accepted it. More than anything, he wanted the young man to try and remember if their father also had a scar stitched across his forehead. Suddenly, Naoya appeared, looking for Megumi, but finding no trace of him, he turned his attention to Yuji, challenging him not to run. "You've been sentenced to death, you know," Naoya sneered, "since Professor Gojo isn't around to back you up anymore. It's thanks to his capricious nature that so many sorcerers have been saved." Naoya revealed that Megumi was the one they were truly after, so their fates didn't matter. "I need him to die," he declared, "and I hope he'll write a little something before he kicks the bucket." With that, Naoya suddenly teleported behind Yuji, delivering a diagonal blow to his jaw. Choso immediately rushed to help, but Naoya's speed was simply too immense. In no time, Choso became nothing more than a punching bag for the man to practice on, while Naoya, was busy admiring himself and stroking his hair, Choso managed a desperate counterattack, but it was futile and only earned him a retaliatory strike. Yuji seized the moment, throwing a rock that grazed Naoya's head, forcing him to keep his distance. He must be using some kind of speed technique to move like that, Yuji thought. Naoya admitted the two were more capable than he'd given them credit for. It seems I've underestimated you both, he conceded. Suddenly, all three felt a presence, something akin to Gojo, but far more terrifying. When they looked up, they saw a young man standing atop a nearby building. Though they didn't know who he was, Choso was certain he was there to kill Yuji. Seeing Yuta leap down, a sharp katana in hand, Naoya immediately raised his own hand, declaring, "I'm an ally." Through their brief exchange, Yuji recognized the newcomer as the second-year senior Megumi had mentioned, a special-grade sorcerer, just like Professor Gojo. Sensing the situation was dire, Choso urged Yuji to run. "Don't worry about me," he insisted, "you're the one they're after. Focus on escaping Yuta. Fighting him means certain death." With that, Choso promised to meet his younger brother at yesterday's spot. In a flash, Naoya darted forward, deflecting an attack, while Yuji found himself relentlessly pursued. Even though he was already running as fast as he could, on the other side, Naoya quickly realized his opponent was using blood manipulation. To use piercing blood, you first need to use flowing red scale, which drains a massive amount of your blood, he deduced. In short, you're going to die a miserable death. Hearing this, Choso's eyes narrowed dangerously, and he snarled, "You think you can lay a hand on my brother and walk away unscathed?" After struggling for a while, Yuji decided to counterattack and confront him head-on. He had to be extremely careful, because even the slightest mistake would mean instant death. The only thing Yuji could do was focus on dodging to save his life. After blowing the young man away, Yuta suddenly confessed, "Actually, I'm quite weak. But on the upside, I have far more cursed energy than even Gojo-sensei. However, he possesses the Six Eyes, so when he activates his technique, his cursed energy consumption is almost zero. My cursed energy, on the other hand, can still run out." Having explained this, Yuta continued to charge forward, slashing to end his target's life. During the fight, Yuji suddenly recalled what Todo had told him. The better a sorcerer is, the harder it is to see the flow of their cursed energy. You can't read their movements until the very last moment before impact. But the problem was, Yuta's entire body and his sword were constantly overflowing with cursed energy. Every single one of his attacks felt like a sure kill move, and Yuji couldn't predict any of his movements. Even so, he had no intention of dying here. There were simply too many things left unresolved. Stubbornly, Yuji leapt through a car, taking the opportunity to snatch a knife from the seat. Gojo-sensei had never taught his students how to use weapons, believing that over-reliance on cursed tools could lead to neglecting cursed energy control. So, weapons were only for emergencies, he'd said. Just as Yuta thought, the kid was too focused on his sword and inadvertently exposed an opening. Yuta immediately kneed him directly in the stomach, then shattered the knife with his blade, injuring Yuji. Seizing the moment, the young man swiftly kicked and broke Yuta's sword, disarming him. Yuji then rushed forward, attempting to counterattack, but was suddenly restrained by the cursed spirit Rika. No matter how much Yuji struggled, it was useless. The creature was simply too strong. Yuta slowly approached, then thrust his sword straight through Yuji's heart. "I'm sorry I had to do this to you, Yuji." After Yuji was dispatched by his senior, Sukuna suddenly sensed something and chose not to intervene. Meanwhile, Choso was being utterly pummeled by his opponent, completely lost. Naoya's attack speed was so blisteringly fast that Choso couldn't even discern his technique. Naoya continued to deliver a barrage of bruising blows, inflicting countless wounds on Choso, who even struggled to control the blood flowing from his body. Yet, as the eldest brother among his siblings, Choso still struggled to his feet, activating flowing red scale to try and defeat his enemy. Naoya seemed unconcerned, only wanted to understand Choso's cursed technique and his stubborn resilience. When Choso stubbornly refused to answer, Naoya decided to attack as before. To his surprise, Choso managed to keep up with his movements, forcing Naoya to resort to the hidden weapon he carried. He stabbed Choso once in the stomach with a knife, and realized his opponent was using flowing red scale, concentrating his strength in his external eyes to enhance his movement observation abilities. Unfortunately, Naoya was always vigilant, making it incredibly difficult for Choso to counterattack. Naoya arrogantly acknowledged Choso's ability to stop bleeding, then taunted him. "In the sorcerer world, it's quite embarrassing to be caught carrying weapons. Yet my brothers parade around with their weapons looking pathetic. I don't understand what right they have to disrespect Toji." Naya didn't hesitate to openly declare his intense dislike for his siblings. What's the point of living as an older brother if you're weaker than your younger sibling? Choso retorted, whether skilled or not, an older brother is always a role model for his younger brother. I'm willing to stray from the path so my brothers can avoid my mistakes. Since he had no one to guide him, Choso had made countless errors. Even so, he accepted the role of paving the way for his younger siblings. After a brief exchange, Naya was horrified to discover a pool of blood on the ground. From that pool, Choso transformed it into a surging wave that pursued him. The Cursed Womb. Death paintings are hybrids of cursed spirits and humans, possessing a unique physique that allows them to convert cursed energy into blood. As long as their cursed energy doesn't run out, they can't die from blood loss. Naoya struggled immensely to escape the pursuit, his legs growing heavier with each step. Is he controlling the blood on my clothes? He wondered. Despite being targeted by Choso, Naoya remained unfazed, because his technique allowed him to simulate and copy 24 frames of movement in advance, so even if he was bound, moving wasn't an issue. Instead of rushing, Choso calmly unleashed a self-created technique he had honed over 150 years. The drops of blood falling through the air exploded, catching Naoya completely off guard. Wounded, he lay on the ground, unable to get up. Choso approached, intending to deliver the finishing blow when Yuta suddenly appeared. Choso, stunned, didn't even have time to turn his head before he was instantly knocked out. Naoya, looking at Yuta's contemptuous gaze, became bitter and resentful. When he learned the blood manipulation contained poison, he realized Choso wasn't human. If things continued, Naoya would surely die, as his body was rejecting the strange toxic blood. Seeing this, Yuta offered a condition. I'll use reverse curse technique to heal you. In return, please report to the higher-ups that Itadori is dead. As he drifted in and out of consciousness, the protagonist saw his grandfather urging his father to stay away from that woman. The person his grandfather was warning him about was none other than Itadori's mother, a woman with a stitched scar across her forehead. When he finally awoke, still disoriented, he found Yuta sitting opposite him. Itadori, still wary that Yuta might try to kill him, watched as his opponent suddenly sighed with relief, then offered a friendly smile. Yuta explained, "Back in September, Gojo-sensei came to me and asked me to look after you. That's why I staged that whole act, to deceive the higher-ups." Gojo-sensei had suddenly gotten a bad feeling, so he'd asked Yuta to keep an eye on the first and second-year students. He was especially worried about Itadori, which is why he'd specifically asked Yuta to watch over the boy. To fool the higher-ups, Yuta had to make a binding vow to attack the protagonist. The reason Itadori was still alive was thanks to Yuta's reverse curse technique. The instant Itadori's heart stopped, Yuta simultaneously used the technique to heal him. This marked the second time Itadori had died a fake death. But Yuta suspected the truth would likely come out soon. For now, his execution was temporarily considered complete. Yuta helped Itadori because he was important to people who were important to Yuta. Besides, the kid wasn't at fault for any of this. The power he carried wasn't truly his own. Seeing Itadori wallowing in self-pity and blaming himself, Megumi suddenly stepped forward, urging him to return to Jujutsu High. The school's barrier was currently weakened, making it possible for him to come back. Itadori stubbornly refused, feeling he had stained his hands. "Many people died because of my mistakes." Megumi simply sighed, reminding his friend, "We're not heroes, we're jujutsu sorcerers. No one can truly punish us. We don't have time to think about ourselves anymore. All you can do now is try your best to save people. Please, Itadori, save me." Kenjaku had bestowed curse techniques upon a group of individuals and created a game for them to kill each other, called the Culling Game. Megumi's sister had been drawn into this game, so he needed Itadori's help. "I need your strength to save her," he pleaded. He explained that according to the rules, the Culling Game would last 19 days. If anyone violated the rules, their curse technique would be taken away. Anyone who stepped into a barrier would immediately be considered a player. Players earned points by ending the lives of other players. Taking a sorcerer's life would grant 5 points, while a non-sorcerer's life yielded 1 point. Additionally, players could use 100 points to negotiate with the Game Master and add a new rule to the Culling Game. The Game Master was compelled to accept any new rule, unless it severely impeded the game itself. If a player's points remained unchanged for 19 days, that person would still lose their cursed technique. Hearing all this, Itadori turned to Yuta and confided in him about losing control in Shibuya. "If Sukuna takes over my body again next time, please kill me," he begged. For now, Megumi wanted the group to return to Jujutsu High and contact Master Tengen. They needed to find a way to unseal the prison realm and discover Kenjaku's specific objectives. To meet Tengen, The group had to choose the correct door from thousands that constantly shifted positions. Only one led to his star corridor. Before setting off, Itadori wanted an update on Obara. From Megumi's saddened expression, Itadori painfully realized that their friend hadn't made it. Suddenly, Choso poked his head out, revealing, "We still have a way to find that hidden barrier. Don't forget, Mahito once stole Sukuna's fingers from us. We'll use a similar method to locate it." The next morning, Yuta rushed down anxiously, checking on Maki, who was covered in numerous burns. Yuki explained that if it weren't for her incredible heavenly restriction, the girl would surely have been dead. After, everyone was present. Choso immediately got to the main topic. Beyond the door leading to the Star Corridor, there's a forbidden vault storing the school's cursed tools and objects. 6 of my brother's remains are there, so I can sense their presence through my technique. To everyone's confusion, Ittori then introduced, "This is my older brother." Hearing this, Choso was so moved he wanted to give him a hug, but the group quickly pulled him along to search for the door. Guided by Choso's senses, the group swiftly found the hidden door leading to the Star Corridor. While moving, Choso finally located the resting place of his 6 younger brothers' remains. "Just wait a little, I'll come back for you all later," he whispered. After descending in the elevator, Itadori witnessed echoes of events from 12 years prior. Yuki believed that perhaps everything began to twist and distort from that point. With that, the group continued straight to the main hall. Inside was a vast, white, expansive space that made everyone wonder. "Perhaps this place has rejected us," someone muttered. Just as the group was about to give up, Tengen suddenly appeared, greeting them. "It's a great pleasure to meet all of you, including Sukuna's vessel." Episode 3. Most everyone present was welcomed by Tengen, except for Yuki. Tengen was concerned that Yuki might be an accomplice of Kenjaku, emphasizing the need for extreme caution with someone capable of body swapping like him. Despite possessing immortality, Tengen still aged. Anyone living for 500 years would end up looking exactly like this. 12 years ago, after failing to merge with the Star Plasma vessel, Tengen had rapidly aged, and her sense of self had gradually faded. The group seemed rather uninterested, as they were there to inquire about Kenjaku's objective and how to unseal the prison realm. Tengen agreed, on the condition that 2 people remain there as her bodyguards. Facing a barrage of questions from the group, he closed her eyes and revealed Kenjaku's true goal: to force all of humanity across Japan to evolve. Megumi wondered why Kenjaku hadn't simply used Tengen's barriers and idle transfiguration to turn everyone into sorcerers back then. Tengen simply explained that he lacked the cursed energy to do so. Kenjaku's chosen method was to assimilate humanity with Tengen. However, the problem was that only Star Plasma vessels could assimilate with her. But since that incident, Tengen had evolved significantly compared to 12 years prior. Therefore, assimilation with others was no longer impossible. Even her soul had evolved and now existed everywhere. Heaven and earth had become my true self. Those who assimilated with him would transcend even sorcerers. Because he possessed barrier techniques, he could retain her form and sanity. If humanity were to evolve and even one person lost control, the world would be annihilated. This meant there would be no more distinction between individuals. The impurities of 100 million people would flood the world. However, Tengen only knew this much. The specific reasons remained unclear. After his evolution, he was closer to a cursed spirit than a human, meaning Kenjaku could potentially use cursed spirit manipulation to absorb her. And that was also the reason. Tengen's true self had rejected everything from entering the Star Corridor. Hearing this, Yuki couldn't help but wonder why Kenjaku was only acting now after all these years. Tengen explained that it was because Tengen, the Star Plasma vessels, and the Six Eyes were bound by a karmic relationship. Kenjaku had been defeated twice by users of the Six Eyes. Since then, he had acted with extreme caution, eliminating all Star Plasma vessels and Six Eyes users within a month of their birth. But on the day of assimilation, both had appeared simultaneously, forcing Kenjaku to shift from killing to sealing. At any given time, only one person with the Six Eyes existed. Toji's interference in the events 12 years ago had thrown everything into chaos. The death of the Star Plasma vessel had shattered their collective fate. Seizing this opportunity, Kenjaku swiftly took action. He established the culling game to prepare for the assimilation. This game utilized cursed energy domains in the player's boundaries to perform a ritual that would transport people from this nation to the other side. Afterward, he would begin to assimilate with Tengen. To maintain such a large-scale ritual, Kenjaku himself had to abide by certain restrictions. Ironically, he wasn't the game master of the culling game. This meant that even if Kenjaku were to die, the game would not end. Coupled with this was a rule ensuring the continuation of the culling game to prevent any interruption to the ritual. So, the group's plan was to accumulate 100 points to negotiate with the Game Master. Then they would add a rule allowing unwilling players to exit. Additionally, they needed to find a way to free Gojo-sensei and rely on him to carry the team. To finalize, Shoso and Yuki both volunteered to stay there as bodyguards. Shoso wanted to seize this chance to end Kenjaku's life and avenge his brothers. As for Yuki, she wished to remain and discuss further, allowing Yuta to depart. Once they agreed, Tengen handed the group the back of the prison realm, an item necessary to free Gojo-sensei. The unfortunate truth was that even with it, he would still be sealed within the back face. Typically, to break it open, one would need either the inverted spear of heaven or another special tool. Ironically, Gojo-sensei himself had destroyed both of those items. It turns out he literally sabotaged himself. Yuta and Miguel had flown to Africa searching, but none remained. Among the players in the culling game was a sorcerer from 1,000 years ago, who called herself the Angel. Her cursed technique could nullify any other technique. With the Angel's technique, they could break open the back of the prison realm. This person was currently located within the Eastern Tokyo barrier. In total, there were 10 barriers across the country, all connected to a boundary that would transport the people of Japan to the other side. Crossing the river, or more accurately, the boundary, to the other side held significant meaning in Jujutsu. Currently, all citizens in Japan were being cursed in preparation for the assimilation. Hokkaido would remain unaffected, as that land had been transformed into a gigantic sacred ground. Tanjin speculated that the ritual would be completed within 2 months. Right now, the awakened players, including Megumi's sister, only had 10 days left to play. Players who refused to participate in the culling game would have their curse techniques stripped away. This was effectively a death sentence. According to Gojo-sensei's friends, this loss of technique wasn't caused by idle transfiguration. It was a stripping away, not a prohibition. So anyone who refused would simply vanish. On the bright side, Maki wouldn't face this risk since she had no curse technique. As for Panda, it was a toss-up. Who knew if he even had a brain? Regular people, once they reached 100 points, would be given at least one chance to escape. From the outset, players were fully aware of the goal to escape the barrier, so it was better to imprison them from the start than to let them voluntarily enter. The remaining rules were fundamentally not too difficult to understand. Regarding the Game Master, each player would receive a Shikigami attached to them. The Game Master should be understood as the culling game program itself. Since it couldn't erase pre-existing rules, it could only add new ones to indirectly negate them. However, to achieve 100 points, players were compelled to kill others. If they didn't kill anyone within 19 days, their cursed technique would be stripped. With the explanation complete, Maki would return to the Zenin clan to retrieve cursed tools. Shoso and Yuki would remain there as bodyguards. After Gojo was sealed in the prison realm, the cursed tools in the school's vault had been taken by 2 major clans. Luckily, Megumi had become clan head, so MAKI could freely go and retrieve weapons. Once that was done, she would go find Panda. Yuta, meanwhile, would enter the culling game to gather as much information as possible before Megumi and his sister joined. He didn't want to fight his allies, so he could avoid nearby barrier domains. The barriers could block signals, meaning everyone would be unable to communicate for a while. Hearing this, Itadori got an uneasy feeling. Fearing Sukuna might switch places with him. What if something happens if I don't go with Yuta? He worried. Megumi, seeing his distress, patted his back reassuringly. Everything will be fine, now's not the time to worry about that. Since they were short on numbers, Yuta's group would go meet and recruit a suspended third-year senior. He's very unpredictable, but when he gets serious, he's incredibly strong, Megumi explained. Before leaving, Itadori didn't forget to thank Choso for his help. Choso, utterly content, told his younger brother not to die, then burst into tears. At the same time, a 35-year-old comedian was being relentlessly scolded by his manager for a poor performance. He simply vented his frustration to clear his head, then left as if nothing had happened. After he departed, a bearded man nearby told the comedian a harsh truth. There are 2 types of people who are famous forever. Those who are truly funny and those who can always believe they are funny. Which type are you? Hearing this, the comedian fell into a state of confusion, unsure what he should do to salvage his career. Episode 4. Upon returning to the clan, Maki was subjected to Naoya's terrible insults. He even considered whether he should torture her as he had before. Maki didn't care. She simply walked straight to the cursed tool vault, having been granted permission by the clan head. Megumi had initially refused the position, but was forced into it by the elders. If you become the clan head, we'll gain more information about the big 3 families, they told him. Megumi realized it would be pointless to hand the position over to Maki as no one would accept her. He had inherited the clan's technique and mastered a domain expansion. Not to mention he possessed many other qualities, while Maki still lacked the necessary capabilities. On her return to the clan, Maki ignored everyone, including her mother. Her sole objective was to retrieve the cursed tools and leave that place as quickly as possible. However, what Maki hadn't anticipated was that her father had been waiting for her. Upon learning that Megumi had become the clan head and sought to mend ties with other clans, the higher-ups had condemned those rebels who plotted to free Gojo. This, he figured, was the perfect time to strike at Megumi. MAKI and Mai's father, knowing his daughters were headed for the Cursed Tool Vault, had moved ahead, designating the place as their tomb. With that, he took a stance, using the secret technique Falling Blossom Emotion, then waited for Maki to enter his range before drawing his sword and attacking. In mere seconds, she effortlessly shattered his blade, but ultimately she was the one who took a fatal blow and collapsed. The reason he hadn't become clan head, he explained, was because he had 2 failed daughters. The father, coldly dragging their bodies, sneered at his 2 girls. "I'm a Jujutsu sorcerer, not a swordsman, so don't assume you've won just because my sword broke. It's only because his 2 daughters' abilities were so weak that he wasn't chosen as the prospective clan head. His actual strength was hardly inferior to his younger brothers. Children who stand in a parent's way are utterly unacceptable," he declared. The ruthless father threw the 2 sisters into a room where countless cursed spirits, grade 2 and below, were imprisoned as punishment. "They'll swarm out and devour you both soon enough." After the father left, Mei crawled over to check her sister's wounds. Despite her severe injuries, Maki was incredibly resilient. After examining her, Mai proceeded to do what she believed was a terrible thing. A short while later, Maki woke up to find herself lying on a beach created by her sister's technique. Mei knew she would die sooner or later, so she walked straight into the sea. At that moment, Maki finally understood why twins were considered an ill omen for sorcerers. The idea that to gain one thing you had to lose another didn't apply to twins. That's because, in Jujutsu, twins were considered a single entity. This meant no matter how much Maki struggled or craved power, it was meaningless. As long as Mei existed, Maki would always be incomplete. Therefore, Mai would leave one thing for her sister and discard everything else. All of Mai's cursed energy would be taken by her sister, in exchange for Mai's promise to destroy everything. With her dying breath, Mai offered a contented smile, then passed away, leaving her sister with deep regret. No matter how much Maki called out, her sister didn't respond. Suddenly, the old man sensed that all the curses had vanished. The murderous aura emanating from the warehouse sent shivers down his spine, reminding him of a feeling from years past. But instead of giving up, he unleashed his technique, Tozen's bone-burning grudge, determined to incinerate Maki's very bones. The old man launched a provocative attack, only to find himself in the next world before he even realized it. Maki, with chilling resolve, struck without hesitation, beginning her massacre of the clan alongside her sister's memory. When the alarm bells rang, the entire Zenin clan was thrown into chaos. Naoya and the others wouldn't have believed even in their wildest dreams that Maki had personally dispatched the old man. By order of the head of the Cursed Tools Storage Unit, the subordinates were to split up and try to capture her alive for him to deal with. The men of the Zenin clan, who lacked cursed techniques, were compelled to join this unit. Maki herself had once belonged to the Cursed Tool Storage Unit before entering Jujutsu High. Despite being surrounded by her family, Maki dedicated her entire mind to recalling the moment she'd spent with Mei. Ultimately, she wanted to apologize to her sister and would destroy everything, just as she had promised the girl. Seeing them all charge in simultaneously, Maki didn't hesitate, ending them with a single blow. For these small fry, she only needed a few swift movements to take them all down. Each sharp sword stroke was unleashed with no other goal than to claim lives. The enemies rushed forward like moths to a flame, meeting a bitter end. A truly gruesome fate awaited them. Before long, Maki had painted the room red with fresh blood. The Cursed Tool Storage Unit, though numerous, couldn't land a single blow on Maki. They were a pathetic bunch, only able to helplessly receive blows and pass into the next world. It was a horrific end, one they could never have imagined. Maki was like a machine of destruction. Wherever she went, enemies fell. After all the cannon fodder had disconnected from the server, the squad leader finally entered, utterly shocked by the bloody scene. While Maki wasn't looking, an old man unleashed his cursed technique. The ground where Maki stood suddenly transformed into 2 gigantic hands. They carried the blood of those who had fallen and began to close, intending to crush her from within. The squad leader felt relieved seeing the Hei unit appear, meaning he wouldn't have to face that woman. The Hei unit consisted of members recognized as semi-grade 1 or higher by Jujutsu High standards, meaning they were arguably the strongest sorcerers in the Zenin clan. Seeing Maki suddenly charge down to attack, the squad leader broke into a cold sweat. He cautiously maintained his distance, retaliated, and felt bewildered. Why is she still moving after taking that old man's attack? Maki lunged forward like a wild beast, delivering a fierce attack, then used her bare hands to rip open an artery, finishing him off instantly. Seeing this, the old man immediately rushed to assist, but Maki was too fast. She cruelly did the same to him, completely unaware she had fallen into a trap. Even with the entire squad combining their efforts to restrain her, they couldn't stop Maki. To keep her still, the young man was forced to exert all his strength. Yet he still couldn't halt the monstrous woman. Maki calmly tore out the eyes that were restraining her, but it was useless. The young man had decided to use his very life to hold her back. The Zaiming clan continued to exist because of Toji's capricious nature. Maki had become just like him. For the safety of the clan, the uncle put all his power into unleashing countless punches to eliminate the threat. From the sky, a merciless barrage of fists rained down on Maki. It was an incredibly destructive attack, designed to ensure she was utterly obliterated. After the shockwave subsided, the young man confidently departed this mortal coil, completely unaware that the one who delivered the blow had been reduced to a mere skull. Watching Maki expressionlessly toss the uncle's head into the pond, Naoya still didn't change his arrogant demeanor. Her current appearance reminded him of Toji. He recalled how, when people said the Zenin clan head was a loser with no cursed energy, Naoya eagerly rushed to see his pathetic face, only to be profoundly impressed by the killing intent radiating from the man. Back in the battle, Naoya relentlessly unleashed countless attacks, aiming straight for Maki. In his eyes, she was nothing more than a common brat, not Toji. The sin of the weak is not realizing the strength of their opponent, he thought. You are definitely not him, because the one who stands there can only be me. Naoya's projection sorcery technique didn't allow movements that ignored trajectory and physical laws. At the moment of technique activation, there was a maximum limit to increasing the body's speed. However, maintaining the technique would allow speed to continue to increase. After that humiliating defeat, Naoya had learned his lesson and was no longer careless. Ironically, Maki had seen through his strategy and found a way to defeat him. When she extended her hand, ready for a direct confrontation, Naoya remained completely unfazed as his projection sorcery was still active. Anything he touched would move at 24 frames per second, and if he failed, it would result in a 1-second immobilization. He subtly touched Maki's shoulder, then carefully maneuvered behind her to strike, knowing that a direct confrontation would surely lead him into her trap. Ironically, it was Maki herself who anticipated Naoya's intention and suddenly spun around to deliver a blow. "Thanks to this body," she declared, "I can finally clearly see that you perform 24 movements every second." With that, Maki punched Naoya squarely in the face, instantly shattering his bones. Having defeated him, she calmly walked through the house searching for her mother. When she found her, Maki asked why her mother had told her to turn back earlier. But her mother was consumed by fear, so Maki unhesitatingly finished her off. While Maki was distracted, Naoya, with his ruined body, was desperately trying to escape. Ironically, Maki's mother found him and stabbed him. To his very last breath, Naoya couldn't believe he had died such a miserable death. Deep down, the mother felt joy at having given birth to her 2 daughters. Upon receiving the news, Maki's friend immediately arrived at the scene and burst into tears, realizing Mei was no longer alive. Maki then asked her seniors to handle the rest, and continued on her way to deal with the remaining Zenin bloodline members outside, personally putting an end to this wretched clan.